Soldiers of the Alliance, the time has come to retake Stromgarde! In moments, we will charge through the portal that our Blood Elf Mage has very kindly created for us, and as one, we will take the fight to the enemy for the light and for the glory of the Alliance. Too long have... Taliesin, where are you going?
Nothing. No, I mean, I won't be a second.
Tally, I'm in the middle of my big speech here. Can whatever it is wait? This is kind of a big deal for me.
Yeah, sure.
Too long have the vile horde filth desecrated the verdant lands of Varathi. Too long have they been farming our rares. We will destroy their engines of death. We will slay their champions of dishonor. We will free those who toil under the shadow of their oppression. We will burn their buildings of occupation. We will push back against the grip of their oppression, and we will free Arathi from their curse once and for all. These are our lands, human lands, alliance lands. So I ask every man and woman, every elf and every dwarf and Draenei and gnome, every champion standing here today with the fire of justice burning in their heart, join us for Anduin, for Stromgarde, for the Alliance!
For the Alliance!
You ready, Taliesin?
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, look, it's okay to be scared. I know Warfronts seem dangerous and the odds are stacked against us, but I've got a really good feeling about this. I think that we're gonna win.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's very brave. Okay, let's go. You ready, Khadgar?
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet and welcome back to the weekly reset. And honestly, I thought the news would have slowed down a bit by now. We had planned for it to slow down a bit by now. After all, we're a month and a bit into this expansion. The raid is out and the world first has been won. We should all be able to settle into that relaxing WoW loop of playing as and when, rocking up for raid night, filling up those reps and generally just enjoying everything in our own time after the mad rush of the launch. But it turns out that's not going to happen at all because ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to 8.1. Announcements have been made, new PTR stuff is already being data mined, and basically it looks so far like BfA will be keeping the same kind of hectic release schedule as Legion, and this has pros and cons. The good news is that for now at least, Belialar has plenty to be getting on with. It's probably safe to go outside. In fact, he's so busy with WoW stuff right now that when he posted this Twitter image of his laptop being cooled in the freezer during a render, the most surprising thing wasn't even that he puts his laptop in the freezer, because you know, of course he does. It was that this freezer currently doesn't have any dismembered human heads in it. And I think we should all applaud Blizzard and their regular content updates for just how empty those drawers are right now. The bad news is, though, how much it affects these episodes, because no matter how much legitimate WoW news there is in any given episode of the weekly reset, there's always going to be a whole bunch of spoilerific data mine stuff that we have to talk about, because apart from it being exciting and interesting, we literally wouldn't be doing our job if we ignored it. And we appreciate that with spoiler content, there's a very fine line to walk, because some spoilers are more spoilery than others. So, new for 8.1, and starting from today, we are introducing our new Taliesin and Evitel spoiler warning system. Whenever we begin discussing data mine content, we will give you one of two different warnings, yellow or red, to try and signify to you exactly how spoilery something is going to be, and you can make an informed decision on whether you watch that part of the video or not. A yellow spoiler warning is stuff that's been data mined, but is still stuff that you probably want to know about before you encountered it in-game anyway. Things like new mounts or character models, armor sets, customization options, locations that don't give away upcoming story, all of which is only really a spoiler in the sense that Blizzard haven't officially presented it to us yet. A red spoiler warning, though, will be for when shit gets real, with proper big-time no-no spoilers that you probably don't want to hear about if you're one of the 6 people in the world who like going into all the story content in this game completely fresh and clueless. So, cutscenes or broadcast text that reveal major story developments, character models that give away a big twist, the kind of stuff that Terran Gregory rightly refers to as spoilers without context. Often disparate and easy to misinterpret, and let's be honest, likely to be significantly different by the time it does actually hit live servers anyway. But still, these are our definitions, and whenever we announce that we're entering a yellow or a red spoiler part of the show, we will display the spoiler warning logo in the top left of the screen here, so if you do want to avoid it, you can easily scroll through the video until you see that it's safe to return. Okay, that's the system. Do you understand the system? Because we won't be explaining it again. Okay, we might be explaining it again, and you'll be able to practice soon enough when we use both warnings this episode because there is some absolutely delicious stuff being dragged out of that code right now. But before we get to that, let's start at the beginning of the week and Ian's livestream announcement of the upcoming content in 8.1 and probably beyond. And I just want to give some low-key props to Ian for a second here, because in the last month he's taken part in a live developer Q&A, a 2-hour Reddit AMA, and now this live stream, which by any standards is a lot and kind of highlights the difference between a lack of communication, which is something that he's often accused of, and simply not telling people what they want to hear, which I think is far more often what people are actually upset about. Like, if we're going to criticise the man, let's criticise him for the right thing, you know? And I like this format. It was low-key, it felt kind of personal, maybe a bit too personal. The fact that Ian pretty much refused to make eye contact with the camera for the entirety of the stream weirdly made me feel like all of this 8.1 stuff was just an awkward preamble to him nervously asking me out on a date. And look, as someone who's been in this game for a while now, Ian, let me give you some excellent advice, okay? Parrot teleprompter, $50, thank me later. Of course, it could just be that he was genuinely excited to be making this announcement, and that's probably fair because I think that there were some genuine surprises to be had here. Okay, so not the earth-shattering revelation that there will be more island expeditions or world quests or warfronts. That's about as surprising as a bad destination wedding review. Although, hands up anyone who predicted Darkshore would be the next warfront location, and if your hand is up right now, put it down because you're a liar, I don't believe you. And actually, a Night Elf versus Forsaken battle going down with an ever-present smouldering Teldrassil on the horizon is surprisingly appealing, as are the tasty transmog sets that we'll be looking at later. The surprise wasn't that Azerite traits will be tweaked, or that new ones on higher tier items in 8.1 will have more involved and interesting traits. I think we all kind of expected that. The classic race heritage armor sets weren't really a shock either, although yeah, the specific quest lines to unlock them sound great, especially if you're a blood elf where you get to play through Arthas's March on Silvermoon. Yes, please, count me in for that, please, yes. News of the Zandalari troll and Kul Tiras humans allied race being unlocked was probably the least surprising thing of all, although it was a blessed relief to learn that Zandalari Empire and Proudmoore Admiralty are the only reputations we'll need for that unlock. So at least I know what contract I'm using from now on, you know? No, the real surprise for most of us is the fact that actually this whole faction war thing, yeah, that's totally still a thing in 8.1, and in a very big way. Because I think most of us expected that after the initial pre-patch and leveling events, BfA would quite quickly move on from the whole Horde Alliance setup into more standard big scary baddie who may or may not have tentacles demands you combine forces to destroy it with the power of friendship. I think we were all set for Nighthold 2.0 with Ashara as the new Gul'dan. We were totally prepared for Naga and Old Gods and underwater shenanigans, and it looks like we'll be getting the merest taster of that in the 2-boss Crucible of Storms mini-raid. But generally, surprisingly, the faction war and the evolving story of those involved looks set to continue taking centre stage until 2019, which I'm actually really pleased about. With demon invasion style incursions, seeing zones in Kul Tiras or Zandalar invaded by the opposite faction, and of course that Siege of Zuldazzar, the faction raid. Different for Horde and Alliance with different bosses and events. A raid that absolutely no one predicted except us. And look, I'm not going to gloat about that here, okay? Because I dedicated a whole video to gloating a few days ago with a little bit of explaining how it will work and speculating what the consequences will be. But of course, Horde players will end that raid by fighting against Alliance commanders, including Jaina Proudmoore on the high seas, which, you know, makes me think of that line from Ogmot's Dream Journal that cropped up in Silithus when the sword hit. Last night, Ogmot dreams of a great battle. 2 fleets bashing on ocean of blood. Shadows twisting beneath the ships. Rising. You know, maybe we could be moving on from the faction war fairly soon after all. And actually, this raises one of my favourite talking points about this reveal. What does that mean for BlizzCon? Because now 8.1 has been revealed and outlined, and with plenty of it finding its way onto the PTR already, what surprises could Ian have in store for us on the biggest stage of all? I assume 8.2 and a big scary baddie who may or may not have tentacles demanding that we combine forces to destroy it with the power of friendship. But I thought that about 8.1, and I was wrong then too, so this is really exciting to me. We all know how much Ian loves a drop the mic moment. And Ian's livestream was just the very start of the week, a week which also saw Alliance players get their first shot at Warfront scenarios. And look, I've got to admit, and I know you're going to hate me for this, and look, you know I've been down on Warfronts, okay, but that's when I approached them as being central, important content, because they were always going to fail dismally at that. And it's good that Blizzard obviously know that too, because ever since I've accepted what Warfronts really are, a little, pretty much one-player PvE event that no even slightly geared character will ever want to run more than a couple of times a month, since I've approached them like that, I've really enjoyed them. I ran one on my main because honestly, why would I do any more than that? I don't need no scrub 340 gear, dude. I'm a pro player, mate. And I don't care what anyone says. When the whole army gets together and starts storming the gates and the music starts to swell and the two generals are smack talking each other like they're auditioning for WWE, that's some enjoyable content right there. At the end of the day, I'd rather have a Warfront to run a couple of times a month than not. What would make me enjoy them 100% more is if I could go in there as a raid group and have some mad bants with my friends like I do island expeditions. And the fact that you can't do that is absolutely baffling to me. Like, why? What possible reason could there be for not allowing us to enjoy a 20-player scenario with 19 players that we know and like? It seems very silly to me, but still. And that wasn't all, because then, of course, came the Uldir Mythic World First Race, which was won by... Oh, no, wait, actually, before I tell you, see if you can guess. Go on, take a guess, because I think you might be a little bit surprised, but no, it was Method. Method won it. And actually, it's pretty much impossible that you didn't know that, because Method have been everywhere in the last 2 weeks. At one point, their progress on Gahun had over 100,000 live Twitch viewers over their various streams, which is ludicrous and just shows the very real appetite and audience that there is for top-tier World of Warcraft, because you kind of feel like this is only going to get bigger. Method didn't just win the World First race this week, they won Twitch streaming. Sko had more live minutes watched than Ninja, and look, I don't know much about Twitch, okay, but I know Ninja, yeah, because he did like an album with Sir Francis Drake or something, and anyway, he's like super famous, so suck it, Ninja. And they didn't just win streaming, they made all of the money in the world. There's no more money left in the world now because Method have it all, and other top guilds, they're going to want some of the money in the world. So you feel like the next raid is going to see even more streaming and even more viewers and definitely even more big ass brands wanting to get involved and have their logos all up in front of your eyeballs. I mean, there is the pretty fair question as to who could actually realistically challenge Method at this point. Limit totally upped their game this time around, and their close second place finish was possibly more impressive than Method's win when all is said and done. And maybe a new, more transparent, more professional setup to Mythic raiding will help guilds like them and Exorsus and, you know, the others. Because here's the thing. Method are easily the biggest name in WoW raiding, but they weren't the main draw here. WoW was. And that's true pretty much across the board. WoW news sites are reporting record views this month. There are a lot of people reading about, watching, and playing this game right now. And it's unlikely that all of that is just hate clicks, you know? Which brings us to the final bit of news before we get into the PTR excitement and hardcore data mining fun. The scandalous saga of the new Dreadwake mount being given away free with the 180-day subscription as part of a month-long promotion. And to be honest, I wasn't going to talk about this at all, but it links to a wider issue, which I think I kind of do want to talk about. So here is the 180-day or 6-month WoW subscription. Payment option that you've had for your WoW subscription since, well, at least 2011, which is when I first got it. It's a pretty standard deal. You pay for 6 months up front, but in the long run, of course, you save money. I think it works out at like a free month of playtime a year, something like that. A no-brainer if you can afford it, and if you know that you'll still be playing for the next half a year. To promote the 180-day sub between September and October, Blizzard have attached a free mount to the deal, the weirdly floaty Dreadwake, which is kind of like a cross between Jaina's flying psychological ghost galleon and the Alliance airship that got given away with BlizzCon tickets last year. It's pretty cool, I guess. I mean, I saw someone flying around with it in game about 30 seconds before I learned about the promotion, and I thought, pretty cool mount. And then I heard about the promotion, and then I had one in my bag because of my subscription, and full disclosure here, Blizzard sent us one too, just like they did every other YouTuber or streamer with our kind of size, which I promptly put on one of my other accounts because I tend to have a lot of different subs on the go at once because, and this might surprise you, but I really like World of Warcraft. So awesome, thanks Blizz for both the mounts, job done. And that's kind of the end of the story. The mount will go into the store in 2019, so you can get it without the 6-month sub if you like. And to be honest, I went on the forums to try and gauge community opinion on this, but I couldn't really find anyone mentioning it at all, apart from the odd pleasantly surprised poster who, like me, had just found a cool mount appear in their bags and who wanted to let everyone know how happy they were that no, it was a shit show, obviously. Blizzard Activision becoming the biggest cash whales ever. Blizzard on damage control. So tacky, it's an admission of failure. It's like in the First World War, to recruit young men to go over the top to their death, they'd get women to come up on stage and they'd be all sexy like and they'd be dancing and they'd say, hey, if you sign up to World War I, we'll give you a kiss on the cheek. And so the young men, the young 19-year-olds and shit, get up and they'd sign their names and the women would go mwah, and then they'd get carted off to war and mown down by the Germans. And that's what this is. No, it's not. Like, getting a free mount with your 6-month sub is not really like World War I. For a start, if you take up the 6-month sub now, no one is pretending that it'll all be over by Christmas. And the wider point that I want to address here is this. Do you remember earlier when I was joking about Ian and I said criticism is fine as long as we're criticising him for the right thing? Like, no one is pretending everything is perfect in WoW right now. Rightly or wrongly, a not inconsiderable number of the player base have legitimate concerns about class balance, Azerite armour, and bugs. And these affect different players to different degrees, but no one is suggesting that they're not legitimate concerns. Some people are having plenty of fun regardless. Some are so frustrated that they are openly hostile towards the game, which is okay, or towards the people that make it, which is not okay. And the problem is, you know, like in real life, when you decide that you dislike someone, and you might have a really good reason for disliking them, but after a while, every little thing they do annoys you, even when they're not doing anything wrong. And the problem is, the more you get angry with them doing nothing wrong, the more irrational you look to everyone else. And I'm afraid to say, that's kind of what's happening here. There is so much wrong with some of these reactions. The idea that this is a damage control move based on people's reactions to the expansion is demonstrably false, because the artwork for this promotion was data mined 3 months ago. So it's been in the works for at least that long, and really, you shouldn't need data mining to prove that, because the idea that a machine the size of Blizzard and WoW could just shit out a promotion like this on a whim is absolutely laughable. Likewise, the idea that the timing of the promotion is because they unexpectedly saw their subs drop because everyone hates BfA so much. Now, both of those things may or may not be true, but what definitely isn't true is that this promotion is desperate or some kind of admission of failure. To think that, you have to totally ignore sub-trends for every single WoW expansion after Burning Crusade, because they all follow the same pattern. A massive spike before the expansion as people who have lapsed come back to check it out, followed by an equally large drop-off within 2 months as those returning players leave again. It happened in WoD, it happened in Mists, it happened in Cataclysm, it happened in Wrath of the Lich King, you can bet it happened in Legion, and yes, it's probably happening in BfA too, but that would be no reflection on the quality of BfA, because the same thing has literally happened for every expansion in the last 9 years. If you're sitting in the Blizzard marketing department office and you say, hey, when should we put out this sub promotion? Oh, I know, how about the month after the expansion launches, which is traditionally when we see a large drop off in sub numbers? That's not cynical, that's basic common sense. That's like criticising a Christmas card company for reducing the price of their Christmas cards in January. Oh, but they're only reducing the price now because they know they get less sales in January. That is so exploitative. You know what might have been a bit cynical? If the only way to get them out was through a 6-month subscription, which it's not, and if you had to buy it before BfA launched. Because if you had to buy a 6-month sub without having tried the product first, then you might have a case. But that's not the case. By now, certainly by October the 21st, you know if you hate the game or not. As, by the way, does everyone else, because you keep telling them. And before anyone says that I'm defending Blizzard on this, let me just say, I hate store mounts, okay? They are like my least favourite thing in the game. Because I personally think that in a game I pay a subscription for, any assets that Blizzard make for the game should be included in my subscription or in the price of expansion, and I shouldn't have to pay extra for anything. And in WoD, when the only new content for months at one point was a store mount, that sucked. That was shit. But this is nothing like that, and it's also nothing like sending teenagers to get mown down by machine guns in World War Shitting 1. As it happens, my stance on store mounts has mellowed quite a lot, since the WoW token means I don't actually have to pay extra for store mounts. Anything on that shop, I can earn in-game anyway. But it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth that I have to take the time to explain this to people, because they have chosen to be irrationally angry over taking note of some pretty obvious facts. Blizzard have become that person you hate, and even if the initial reason they pissed you off was legitimate, now you hate everything they do, even when it makes no sense. You want to be angry at something, be angry at the fact that this boat, this seafaring vessel, doesn't float on water. Complain that you will drown if you take it onto the water. That's a fact, and I know because I tried it for science, and I drowned. That is a legitimate complaint right there, so yeah, F you for that, Blizz.
Okay, it's that time. Talia has had his little rant, so it's time for his nap, and we can concentrate on getting down and dirty with some proper hardcore data mining. And obviously when I say we, I don't mean it'll be us doing the data mining, obviously, because I genuinely don't know the first thing about data mining. I have no idea how it works. For all I know, it's an actual garrison mission table in the middle of Wowhead HQ, and they send Lily and Voss off to have a look at the new PTR data, and ding! 4 hours later, new mounts discovered! Put it up on the site, Perculia. But yeah, it's Wowhead doing all our data mining, obviously. And pretty much everything we'll be talking about here, we'll be linking to their articles covering it below. And because Ian took the trouble to tell us so much about what's coming up in 8.1, there's very little in in the way of big surprises here. Just a whole ton of armor sets and weapon models and mounts and models that we want to look at. Then some surprises. So we're now entering the yellow spoiler alert zone, people. Be on your guard because we are about to show you the armor sets from the Siege of Zuldazzar. And hey, you remember how the old year sets were? You know, they were fine and everything, but they were a bit like, meh? Well, the Zuldazzar sets are more like holy shit because this is proper Bwonsamdi death armor. This, which is on the screen right now, this is the cloth set, and I don't know how long cloth has meant hundreds of skulls and bones and shit, but that's definitely what it means here. I mean, look at this. This is magnificent. This is probably the most badass non-warlock specific cloth helm in the game. Those are 3-clawed bone slippers, and that is a frankly outrageous amount of glowing effect. Surely this has to be the best of the bunch, right? I mean, there's no way the leather set can top this, right? Oh my god, the leather set has, if anything, even more bones. I mean, granted, there is not as much cool glowing, but that's probably because there's no room for any glowing because there's just so much bone. I mean, this is great, isn't it? I look at this and I think, like, how much more bone could this be? And the answer is none. There is none more bone. I can't wait to see the male set because... oh, well, I guess it was a lot to ask. At least us male wearers have got a slightly better time of it when it comes to the Darkshore Warfront armor, with these pretty classic Forsaken looking sets, which, as you'd expect, is the theme with all of these. They all look pretty much exactly as you'd expect, which is a good thing, whereas the Alliance versions are, I want to say they look a bit awkward. They could well be unfinished, this is the first build after all, but they feel a bit random to me. I'm hoping this Kul Tiras heritage armor is unfinished too, because on the one hand, yay, it's the long coat we all want and deserve, but on the other hand, it's like, hey, do you want to maybe bulk those cuffs up a bit and put the cool long coat collar on it? And okay, look, just make it look exactly like this, okay? This is what we all want. Just give us this and cool northern accents like Rosaline, and then we can all reroll Kul Tirans and we'll say no more about it, okay? At least they get a cool horse to ride, I guess, because that's what the good folks of the Alliance have been really crying out for so far this expansion, isn't it? More horses. In fairness though, this is probably the best horse, and in an expansion with so many horses, that's probably a massive compliment. Unfortunately though, no one will care about the horse or indeed any other mount after they've seen the vicious white war saber, because this is it. You've just won mounts, vicious white war saber, congratulations. I mean, this makes up for every horse on Kul Tiras, honestly. This is amazing. This is my new mount. This is everybody's new mount. Oh wait, you don't PvP? Are you sure you don't PvP? Yeah, you PvP now. The Horde get a skeleton horse mount. It's not as good as the vicious white mana saber, but what is? There's the new Kul Tiran druid boomkin form to look at. Oh wait, sorry, no, that's what we all hoped the boomkin form would look like. It actually looks like this, which is, well, it's brilliant, but it's ridiculous, but it's a boomkin, so it's perfect. Is it more ridiculous than a chicken with moose antlers? I'll let you decide, but it does the only thing you can ever really ask of a boomkin model. It runs with its mouth open like running is the most difficult and horrible thing it's ever done, so it passes the test as far as I'm concerned. Get it in the game. And on the subject of druids, how about that new Zandalari swim form? This is so good, it's almost unfair. Which leads us to the final model I want to look at in the yellow spoiler alert section, the new customization options for night elves. These terrifying horror movie ink black blue eyes. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh god, what's happened to her eyes? But you're also thinking, oh man, her eyes look so cool. And you're also thinking, but why the black eyes though? Well, dear viewer, for all of these answers and more, come and join us in the red alert spoiler section, because these black eyes are a new customization option referred to as the Night Warrior, and is something you can unlock by completing a questline where you help Tyrande complete a ritual in Bashalaran and ascend to Night Warrior status, because, oh yeah, Tyrande has a new model and she's got terrifying nightmare eyes too. We don't know much about the lore behind this, but Night Warrior has long been a given name of Elune, so it's not like it's been completely made up out of nowhere. And whatever the reasoning behind it, I'm totally on board, because her eyes, but more importantly, her whole model now look awesome. I mean, yes, this looks a lot more fitting for a badass warrior queen than the cocktail dress she wore in Legion, and you know she means business here because she's not even wearing heels. Shit just got real for Tyrande fam, and it's great that Ian clearly wasn't even lying when he said that there was more big story coming for her in 8.1. There's just one last thing I want to touch on while we're in the red spoiler zone here, and it's easily the most spoilery thing here, because it wasn't just Tyrande that we were promised plot development for in 8.1. Ian also hinted at some pretty big events events around Vol'jin too, and data mine broadcast text, which, remember, should never be trusted or taken seriously, but we're just gonna go ahead and take it very seriously, reveals a quest line where we confront the spirit of Vol'jin and basically ask why, for the love of God, he told us to make Sylvanas war chief, to which Vol'jin replies, he can't remember. Oh, the truth is that it might not be the Loa who wanted Sylvanas to be war chief, but something far more powerful. Great, well thanks for that, Vol'jin, great work! And so begins basically a whodunit as we confront major death-based lore characters, and ask them if it was them that dicked Vol'jin over. Bwonsamdi appears as confused as we are, and makes it clear he's not a fan of Sylvanas' methods. That one's got a nasty habit of keeping what she kills. No, your war chief be no friend to old Bwonsamdi. Then we pop over to ask the Lich King about it, and also claims no responsibility, but says to Vol'jin, you have been altered more than you know, which sounds ominous, but also Bolvar, while we're here, couldn't you just save us a lot of hassle and just tell us how he's been changed, and then we will know, and that would basically be a great help, but instead he just chases us out of the Ice Crown, so we head over to Aiur, who we know isn't a big fan of Sylvanas, and she says, you have been touched by the hand of valor, to which Vol'jin replies, so whoever whispered to me is not the same as who sent me back? Which is another tantalizing clue. So seriously, what on earth is going on here? Who is responsible for this mess? Who whispered to Vol'jin? Old gods? Helya? The much hyped Mwazala? And who brought Vol'jin back? Odin? Elune? Titans? What is going on? Plenty to be talking about here, and I really like how they seem to be weaving everything into a much bigger overall narrative. There's some pretty big reveals coming here, which I get the feeling will take us all by surprise. Unless you're brave enough to watch through the red alert spoiler sections, obviously, in which case nothing will be a surprise.
So here we go, back into the data mining, like, routine.
Yeah.
Where basically Fridays are completely useless just now, because we always have to just sit there waiting for American time and for Wowhead to actually just tell us what it is they found before we can even start writing the
But
weekly
we're
reset.
very grateful that
Yes.
we are getting all that stuff and we get to experience it. And I personally love data mining season, if you want to call it
You're
that.
all about the red spoiler section, aren't you?
I love
you
the
love
red
that stuff. You're
spoiler
like, give me the red section.
section.
I'll do the red section.
I love like refreshing Wowhead and like looking for the newest thing.
Favourite new thing that's in, first of all, like the official announcement that's 8.1.
Yes. My favorite new thing, multiple raids. Sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a what,
Yeah,
like, you
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
like, there's a big one and a little one?
Yeah.
Like the old two-boss raid?
Yeah.
You don't think two-boss raid sounds a bit rubbish? I mean, it's not much, is it?
Maybe.
It's two bosses.
But when we were watching the stream and he was like, and there's another raid, we were like,
That was quite exciting. Because we actually started our D&D night late.
Yeah.
Because our D&D night started at the exact same time as the stream.
Yeah.
So we were like, we have to watch this stream.
We
I'm
have
really sorry. And all the players in the D&D night are WoW players. So they were like, yeah, but our games master wasn't. Our DM wasn't, and he had to like sit there just on his phone.
like while we were going,
Heritage armor. And he was like, oh, heritage armor. That sounds.
That's
great.
another thing I am excited about, although not necessarily for blood elves and dwarves, but
Do you think you were going to get the naked elves? Naked
well,
night elves.
So this segues nicely into things that I'm excited about that were data mined and not announced, which is the night elf armor, which when I saw the icons, I was like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like the glaives, and then when I saw the models, I was like, yeah.
I feel like they're unfinished though, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Tyrande's model is so brilliant.
It's so great.
That I have faith in basically anything else I'm doing, because that is so awesome. Her new
so
model
cool.
is, it's legit.
She's great.
It's so good. I have a worry about the new raid.
Okay.
Because you know how it's like a Horde and Alliance thing, and the Horde do different things, and the Alliance do different things, they fight different bosses, it starts at a different time, and like, ends at a different time. I'm fine with all of that. The problem I have with it is the name, Siege of Zuldazzar.
Why is that?
Because it abbreviates to SOZ, like sorry. Like SOZ is slang for sorry in this country. And the fact is, that means we've had a raid that could sound like oh dear, and we've had a raid that sounds like sorry.
So British.
And it's just so polite. These
so
raids are
fun.
so polite. These raids, I feel like I accidentally stepped backwards into the raid and they went, oh, sorry, because they're so British. I feel like I accidentally just knocked into them and they were like, oh, sorry.
Sounds. Oh my gosh.
These are such polite raids, Blizz. Thank you so much. They're so British. They're making me feel very at home. Anyway, looking forward to getting in there and rooting around all the data mining. forever.
Forever.
But thank you for joining us today. If you like this video, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who give their actual real life money to make these videos happen, because without them they wouldn't happen.
No.
Oh, we've got a really important announcement to make to the patrons, which we will do early on in the week. And of course the office tour video that we keep promising, which we're definitely going to do now.
Yes,
as well,
we
because
are.
this announcement will allow us to do more stuff like that, which is great.
Yeah.
If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Flying Buttress.
Ooh.
Coming on nicely, that channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
I thought you were talking about the actual thing that's a flying buttress. Like the cathedral, the thing that holds up cathedrals is called a
No,
flying buttress.
I'm talking about a
anyway.
YouTuber whose logo is literally a bum with wings on it. Which is a bit like a cathedral.
A little bit. Majestic. Awe-inspiring.
No, my name is Taliesin. From me,
And for me, Evitel.
until next time, cheerio.